Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Supposes, a comedy written in the Italian tongue by Ariosto. English by George Gascoigne of Gray's Inn Esquire, and they're presented in 1566. So we're in the 1560s still, one of the last 1560s texts that we have, barring other translations, but this is at least one that was presented, and one which has a reasonably good performance history in the modern time as well, and a relatively good publishing history. So it's nice to be touching on the work of George Gascoigne. We have two other plays of his, or at least partially by his hand in translation of other people's works, and hopefully we're going to be able to explore them in detail over the next few weeks. Today we have reading the first couple of acts, reading the prologue, and Dulippo is...
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. That's the attitude I hope that everyone should take. Reading Balia and Paquetto is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I never know who I am, so it's fine.
It's fine. We've had a certain amount of dancing around of parts here in the prep. Reading Polynesta and Erostrato is...
Liza Graham. In London.
Reading Cleander today is...
Rachael Nicole, currently under attack by Catzilla.
Yes, a frequent thing of wherever we send in the defence force to protect you. Reading Pasiphilo and Patrucio is...
Hi, David, also in London.
And reading No Sniggering at the back there. Reading Crapino and Carrion is...
Angela, in London. Thank you.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and trying to keep an eye on the text. I've already noticed a few minor errors, but hopefully the errors are minor and that this will all flow in a beautiful way. We begin the play with a prologue or argument, depending on your point of view. So let's find out whether it's more performative or more written down on a bit of paper to be handed round. Greg, if I could ask you to read the prologue.
I suppose you are assembled here, supposing to reap the fruit of my travails. And to be plain, I mean presently to present you with a comedy called Supposes. The very name whereof may peradventure drive into every of your heads a sundry suppose to suppose the meaning of our supposes. Some per case will suppose we mean to occupy your ears with sophistical handling of subtle suppositions. Some other will suppose we go about to decipher unto you some quaint conceits, which hitherto have been only supposed as it were in shadows, and some, I see, smiling as though they suppose we would trouble you with the vain suppose of some wanton suppose. But understand this, our suppose is nothing else but a mistaking or imagination of one thing for another. For you shall see the master supposed for the servant for the master, the freeman for a slave, and the bondslave for a freeman, the stranger for a well-known friend, and the familiar for a stranger. But what? I suppose that even already you suppose me very fond of that, you have so simply disclosed unto you the subtleties of these are supposes. Where otherwise, indeed, I suppose you should have heard almost the last of our supposes before you could have supposed any of them all right. Let this then suffice.
This is my kind of prologue. This is a prologue that is not trying to help anyone and is there to indulge in the fun of confusion and bamboozlingness, even though it does contain information, but it contains it in a way that you haven't got a hope in hell of following it. I love this kind of thing. Liza.
I'm just sad that Danny Kaye is dead, because clearly this text was written for him.
Yes, how many different ways can we use the word suppose to suppose things, and you suppose that this is a suppose? There's going to be a lot of that. He said, hopefully. Any additional thoughts on the prologue, Eric?
It's like the Dead Parrot sketch, basically, except written differently.
It's a sort of centre part, a piece of all radio comedy, really. This play on words. Which I like
I love the fact it was so plain to the audience. You so need an audience to be able to do that prologue any justice at all.
Yeah, it's clearly performative.
I like how it ends in mid-sentence. If I put this on a stage, I would definitely have two burly stagehands drag the person away gibbering.
I don't know. There's a slight smugness to this prologue of just let this then suffice.
Yeah,
nothing happens.
I love the fact that there's so many ifs, buts, what's it's. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. I hadn't read it before I did it, and I was just like, oh wow, how many times.
Yeah, and it reads so well. You were able to perform it straight off the cuff, and that says a lot for it. Rachael.
No, I was just imagining like if this was played like by somebody who spoke so fast and then just went off the stage, like or they said all this so fast and then just said right after, let this then suffice at like a normal. Normally, and then just walked off, leaving the audience just like, what the hell did you just say? What the hell was that?
Robert,
sorry.
No, go on. Go on, Eric. I'll go.
I was just going to say that it's like the sort of V for Vendetta, not prologue, but like intros. When V for Vendetta enters in the film, he kind of has this long intro that kind of goes. I can't remember. I can't remember it at all. But it's basically like 54 or 55 V's or something, which is like V-letter words, vociferous, verbose, and all that stuff. And it's pretty much the same thing except with S.
Yeah, it's very old school music hall, isn't it? That verbosity of it, and the slightly silly word, the sophistical handling of subtle suppositions. Sorry, Greg.
When you're drunk. Yeah.
Yeah, Greg.
I don't think we have, because of this may be a question we might want to ponder as the time goes on. Do we know who the prologue was doubled with?
No, it might not have been doubled at all. The thing about anything in the Inns of Court is they probably have enough bodies available. You know what students are like. Angela.
Well, it just struck me that if it was a whole bunch of lawyers, which it is, they'd have loved this, wouldn't they? They'd have loved it. They're messing around with words like this all the time. I mean, you can see this being an enormous hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder whether that's in the original or not. It's always an interesting question how much of this is translation and how much of this is adaptation, of which I do not know the answer. So I'm quite curious on that level. Anyway, we should move on. Hold on to any thoughts you may have had as we're going to go into some action. I may let the action sustain itself, see how it goes. The scenes as they're laid out frequently overlap into each other, so we may not have a bare stage for a while. I'll play it by ear as and when we may pause. But I think we should give this play its head, because I suspect it's going to build up a reasonable head of steam. It may not. We may be horribly disappointed. Let's find out. Act 1, Scene 1, and we have enter Balia the nurse and Polynesta, a young woman. So enter Balia and Polynesta.
Here is nobody. Come forth, Polynesta. Let us look about, to be sure at least any man can hear our talk. For I think within the house the tables, the planks, the beds, the portals, yea, and the cupboards themselves have ears.
You might as well have said the windows and the doors. Do you not see how they hearken?
Well, you jest fair, but I would advise you take heed that I have bidden you 1,000 times beware. You will be spied one day talking with Dulippo.
And why should I not talk with Dulippo, as well as with any other, I pray you?
I have given you a where for this many times, but go to, follow your own advice till you overwhelm us with sudden mishap.
A great mishap, I promise you. Marry God's blessing on their heart that set such a brooch upon my cap.
Well, look well about you. A man would think it were enough for you to secretly to rejoice, that by my help you have passed so many pleasant nights together. And yet by my troth I do it more than half against my will. For I would rather you had settled your fancy in some noble family. Yea, and it is no small grief unto me that, rejecting the suits of so many nobles and gentlemen, you have chosen for your darling a poor servant of your father's, by whom shame and infamy is the best dower you can look for to attain.
And I pray you, whom may I thank but gentle nurse, that continually praising him what for his personage, his courtesy, and above all the extreme passions of his mind, in fine you would never cease till I accepted him, delighted in him, and at length desired him, with no less affection than he erst desired me.
I cannot deny but that at the beginning I did recommend him unto you, as indeed I may say that for myself I have a pitiful heart, seeing the depth of his unbridled affection, and that he continually he never ceased to fill mine ears with lamentable complaints.
Nay, rather that he filled your purse with bribes and rewards, nurse.
Well, you may judge of nurse as you list. Indeed, I have thought it always a deed of charity to help miserable young men whose tender youth consumeth with the furious flames of love. But be you sure, if I had thought you would have passed to the terms you now stand in, pity not pension, penny, nor paternoster should ever have made nurse once to open her mouth in the cause.
No, of honesty I pray you, who first brought him into my chamber? Who first taught him the way to my bed? But you. Fie, nurse, fie, never speak of it for shame, you'll make me tell a wise tale anon.
And have I these thanks for my goodwill? Why then, I see well I shall be counted the cause of all mishap.
Nay, rather the author of my good hap, gentle nurse. For I would thou knewest, I love not Dulippo nor any of so mean estate, but have bestowed my love more worthily than thou deemest. But I will say no more at this time.
And I am glad you have changed your mind yet.
Nay, I neither have changed nor will change it.
Then I understand you not. How said you?
Marry, I say that I love not Dulippo, nor any such as he, and yet I neither have changed nor will change my mind.
I cannot tell. You loved to lie with Dulippo very well. This gear is Greek to me. Either it hangs not well together, or I am very dull of understanding. Speak plain, I pray you.
I can speak no plainer. I have sworn to the contrary.
How? Make you so dainty to tell it, nurse, lest she should reveal it. You have trusted me as far as may be, I may show to you, in things that touch your honor if they were known, and make you strange to tell me this. I am sure it is but a trifle in comparison of those things whereof hence heretofore you have made me privy.
Well, it is of greater importance than you think, nurse. Yet would I tell it you, under condition and promise that you shall not tell it again, nor give any sign or token to be suspected that you know it.
I promise you of my honesty. Say on.
Well, hear you me then. This young man, whom you have always taken for Dulippo, is a noble-born Sicilian. His right name, Erostrato, son to Filogano, one of the most worthiest men in that country.
How? Erostrato? Is it not our neighbor which...
Hold thy talking, nurse, and hearken to me, that I may explain the whole case unto thee. This man, whom to this day you have supposed to be Dulippo, is, as I say, Erostrato, a gentleman that came from ground of Sicilia to study in this city, and even at his first arrival met me in the street, and fell enamored of me. And of such vehement force were the passions he suffered, that immediately he cast aside both long gown and books, and determined on me only to apply his study. And to the end that he might the more commodiously both see me and talk with me, he exchanged both name, habit, clothes, and credit with his servant Dulippo, whom only he brought with him out of Sicilia. And so, with the turning of the hand of Erostrato, a gentleman, he became Dulippo, a serving man, and soon after sought service of my father and obtained it.
Are you sure of this?
Yea, out of doubt! On the other side, Dulippo took upon him the name of Erostrato, his master, the habit, the credit, books, and all things needful to a student, and in short space profited very much, and is now esteemed as you see.
Are there no other Sicilians here, nor none that may pass this way which may discover them?
Very few that pass this way, and few or none that tarry here at any time.
This hath been a strange adventure, but I pray you, how hang these things together? That student whom you say to be the servant and not the master is become an earnest suitor to you, and requireth of you of your father in marriage.
That is a policy devised between them, to put Dr. Dulippo out of conceit, the old dotard that he that so instantly doth lie upon my father for me. But look where he comes, as God help me, it is he. Out upon him, what a lusty yonker this is! Yet I'd rather be a nun 1,000 times than cumbered with such a coistrel.
Daughter, you have reason, but let us go in before he come any nearer.
And here we have an inferred stage direction that Polynesta does indeed go in. Balia may hang around, but we have now the entrance of Cleander, Pasiphilo, and Balia remains. So, Cleander, Pasiphilo, continue.
Where were these dams here? Or did mine eyes dazzle?
Nay, sir, here were Polynesta and her nurse.
Was my Polynesta here? Alas, I knew her not.
He must have better eyesight that should marry your Polynesta, or else he may chance to oversee the best point in his table sometimes.
Sir, it is no marvel. The air is very misty today. I myself knew her better by her apparel than by her face.
In good faith, and I thank God I have my eyesight good and perfect, little worse than when I was but 20 years old.
How can it be otherwise? You are but young.
I am 50 years old.
He tells 10 less than he is.
What sayst thou of 10 less?
I say I would have thought you 10 less. You look like one of 36 or 37 at the most.
I am no less than I tell.
You are like enough to live 50 more. Show me your hand.
Why, is Pasiphilo a chiromancer?
What is not Pasiphilo? I pray you show me it a little.
Here it is.
Oh, how straight and infract is this line of life. You will live to the years of Melchizedek.
Thou wouldst say Methuselah.
Why is it not all one?
I perceive you are no very good Bibler, Pasiphilo.
Yes, sir, an excellent good bibbler, especially in a bottle. Oh, what a mount of Venus here is, but this light serveth not very well. I will behold it another day when the air is clear, and tell you somewhat peradventure to your contentation.
You shall do me great pleasure, but tell me, I pray thee, Pasiphilo, whom dost thou think Polynesta liketh better, Erostrato or me?
Why, you, out of doubt. She is a gentlewoman of a noble mind, and maketh greater accompt of the reputation she shall have in marrying your worship than that poor scholar whose birth and parentage God knoweth, and very few else.
Yet he taketh it upon him bravely in this country.
Yea, where no man knoweth the contrary. But let him brave it, boast his birth, and do what he can. The virtue and knowledge that is within this body of yours is worth more than all the country he came from.
It becometh not a man to praise himself, but indeed I may say, and say truly, that my knowledge hath stood me in better stead at a pinch than could all the goods in the world. I came out of Otranto when the Turks won it, and first I came to Padua, after hither, where by reading, counselling, and pleading, within 20 years I have gathered and gained as good as 10,000 ducats.
Yea, marry, this is the right knowledge. Philosophy, poetry, logic, and all the rest are but pickling sciences in comparison to this.
But pickling indeed, whereof we have a verse. The trade of law doth fill the boisterous bags. They swim in silk when others roist in rags.
Oh, excellent verse. Who made it? Virgil?
Virgil, tush, it is written in one of our glosses.
Sure, whosoever wrote it, the moral is excellent and worthy to be written in letters of gold. But to the purpose, I think you shall never recover the wealth that you lost at Otranto.
I think I have doubled it, or rather another made it 4 times as much. But indeed, I lost mine only son there, a child of 5 years old.
Oh, great pity.
Yea, I had rather have lost all the goods in the world.
Alas, alas, by God, and grafts of such a stock are very gaison in these days.
I know not whether he were slain, or the Turks took him and kept him as a bond slave.
Alas, I could weep for compassion, but there is no remedy but patience. You shall get many by this young damsel with the grace of God.
Yea, if I get her.
Get her! Why doubt you of that?
Why, her father holds me off with delayers, so that I must needs doubt.
Content yourself, sir. He is a wise man and desirous to place his daughter well. He will not be too rash in his determination. He will think well of the matter, and let him think. For the longer he thinketh, the more good of you shall he think. Whose wealth, whose virtue, whose skill, or whose estimation can he compare to yours in this city?
And hast thou not told him that I would make his daughter a dower of 2,000 ducats?
Why, even now I came but from thence since.
What said he?
Nothing, but Erostrato had proffered the like.
Think you, Erostrato? How can he make any dower, and his father yet alive?
Think you I did not tell him so? Yes, I warrant you. I forgot nothing that may further your cause, and doubt you not, Erostrato shall never have her, unless it be in a dream.
Well, gentle Pasiphilo, go thy ways. Go thy ways, and tell Damon I require nothing but his daughter. I will none of his goods. I shall enrich her of mine own. And if this dower of 2,000 ducats seem not sufficient, I will make it 500 more, yea, 1,000, or whatsoever he will demand, rather than fail. Go to, Pasiphilo, show thyself friendly in working this feat for me. Spare for no cost. Since I have gone thus far, I will be loath to be outbidden. Go.
Where shall I come to you again?
At my house.
When?
When thou wilt.
Shall I come at dinner time?
I would bid thee to dinner, but it is a saint's even when which I have ever fasted.
Fast till thou famish.
Hark!
He speaketh of a dead man's fast.
Thou hearst me not.
Nor thou understandest me not.
I dare say thou art angry. I bid thee not to dinner, but come, if thou wilt, thou shalt take such as thou findest.
What? I think I know not where to dine.
Yes, Pasiphilo, thou art not to seek.
No, be you sure there are now will pray me.
That I know well enough, Pasiphilo, but thou canst not be better welcome in any place than to me. I will tarry for thee.
Well, since you will needs, I will come.
Dispatch then, and bring no news but good.
Better than my reward by the rood.
And Cleander exits. Pasiphilo remains on stage, but we'll pause there because we've given it some steam. And there's so much good material in this. I mean, it's absolutely bouncing along. It's full of a mixture of very, very old drama forms, comedy forms, some bad jokes, some good bad jokes, some bad jokes. There's just lots of jokes. Situation, characters that we recognise. We've got this parasite sort of figure, Pasiphilo, just working his way in there, trying to inveigle his way in. Oh, dinner, is dinner an option? I'm wondering whether Cleander is when Pasiphilo starts doing his asides, whether Cleander is actually going, mate, are you okay? And actually doing a meta joke about doing asides to the audience, and it's doing so much stuff, which is just absolutely wonderful, and which we can is not only nicked but will be nicked again. So. Thoughts from the room. Who wants to leap in first? Did I see Rachael waving earlier? I'll go to Liza first.
Yeah, I mean, no trees were destroyed to make this comedy, but at the same time, it is delightful. These tropes get reused for a reason, and from the feeling that from the prologue onwards, I have a feeling that the correct way to deliver this text is generally as quick as possible. In most plays, it's the actor saying, "Earn your pauses," but in this one, I think you pay for them in greater coin. And the prose is so clever. I'm really liking this as far as we've gotten.
Yeah, we have these great long expositionary moments, and they're undercut immediately by the next line. So, I've got this guy, and he's disguised as another guy, and the other guy, and are you sure of this? Is the response. It just feels so wonderfully modern. He says, "Are you sure you've got that the right way round, and you're not being conned, and how's that all working?" So yes, we've got a love plot going on. We've got another suitor who's an older person. I am 50 years old. He tells 10 less than he is. I mean, it's just really nicely done. And again, very old setup. We're going back the odd 1,000 years. Other thoughts? Sorry, I'm wittering away here. Rachael, did you want to?
No, I think that part is just funny where he might actually just be a servant and she's been tricked. And just that the doctor doesn't sound like he has a lot of money, and that he's rather cheap, or he's made bad investments or something. I think that's very funny, and I wonder if in the next scenes his man is going to put up more money than he owns altogether for her in dowry, and also just that he thinks he can buy a woman.
Yeah, I mean, you get this. It is kind of a true to life portrayal, because there are rich people in the world who are just skinflint, who are just afraid of who won't even tip decently. Like I'm getting that's the kind of guy this is. And also he's a lawyer. Boo, hiss. First thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers.
Yes, and we're considering that we are in the company of lawyers as the context of this play. I suspect they don't think that.
Probably not. The other interesting thing is that the young lady and her lover, whom we've yet to meet, are already in a sexual relationship. So it's not one of these virginal marriage comedies like these Italian guys. They don't waste any time, and Italian gals, like they, and this is all very usual for Italian characters. But on the English stage, it's worth looking twice at.
Mm. And it's interesting the way Pasiphilo, as this person who's trying to leech off Cleander, keeps asking these questions. I thought you lost a lot of money. And of course, no, I've got plenty of money. I lost a baby, but I'm doing okay. And it's that thing to glean information. Pasiphilo is always asking the opposite of what he wants. It's his con is really good, and it's all about how much he can extract from this person. Oh yeah, there's a lost baby. I'm sure, as I think Liza put in the chat, I'm sure we'll never hear of that again. We'll never hear that again. Eric.
There was also the bit between the nurse and Polynesta where they're like sort of shifting blame. Like, oh yeah, you introduced me to him, but then like you were the one who fell in love with him, and then you did the whole like sort of working out how to sneak him into the bedroom or whatever, and it's like, but you wanted this in the first place. Like sort of what? That was just fun.
Yeah. You can't. We are all complicit in everything that has been happening in the past that we both know about, and why kind of conversations. We've got a name check for a Dr. Dulippo. That's nice because we do have a later play from the 17th century that we have looked at called Dr. Dulippo. So whether there's a Dulippo and whether there is some kind of causal relationship between the names and the figures, we may find out. We may not. It may be completely coincidental. Of course, he's not actually called Dulippo. He's just called Dr. Doddy.
Is it a reference, do we think, to the other play?
It's far too. The other play is not written until the 17th century, so it's 50 years. 50
so it
years
must have been a commonplace then.
Or comes from something like this. I mean, this I think has a decent publishing history, so it might come from here. I don't know. I genuinely don't know if it may just be a coincidence. Because technically, as I say, the character in the play, Dr. Dodipole, is not called Dr. Dodipole. His name is actually Dr. Doddy. And everyone else calls him Dr. Dodipole. It's an insult, and he gets very upset about it. So never call him that, because he'll get cross. Rachael, I saw a wave earlier.
Nope, just posted a joke in the chat.
Excellent. Excellent. We will, however, go on, and I think we'll continue this theme of letting the play rattle on, because it's I'm having fun. And I'm just watching you read. So we have Pasiphilo left alone on stage now. He's already been talking to the audience, giving some good asides. So hopefully this lengthy aside that we're getting here before the entrance of Dulippo, allegedly, because we already know that some people are disguised as other people, so the character name may be for the real name rather than who they're pretending to be. We will find out how this all goes later on. Confused? Hopefully you will be, because that's the point. Anyway, Pasiphilo, speechify, please.
O miserable, covetous wretch, he findeth an excuse by St. Nicholas fast, because I should not dine with him, as though I should dine at his own dish. He maketh goodly feasts, I promise you. It is no wonder, though, he think me bound unto him for my fare, for over and besides that his provision is as scant as may be, yet there is great difference between his diet and mine. I never so much as sip of the wine that he tasteth. I feed at the board's end with brown bread. Marry, I reach always to his own dish, for there are no more but that only on the table. Yet he thinks that for one such dinner I am bound to do him all the service that I can, and think me sufficiently rewarded for all my travail with one such festival promotion. And yet, peradventure, some men think I have great gains under him. But I may say and swear that this dozen year I have not gained so much in value as the points at my hose, which are but 3 with codpiece, point and all. He thinks that I may feed upon his favour and fair words, but if I could not otherwise provide for one, Pasiphilo were in a wise case. Pasiphilo hath mo pastures to pass in that one, I warrant you. I am household with this scholar Erostrato, his rival, as well as with Domine Cleander, now with this one and then with the other, according as I see their caters provide good cheer at the market, and I find the means so to handle the matter that I am welcome to both. If the one see me talk with the other, I make him believe it is to hearken news in the furtherance of his cause, and thus I become a broker on both sides. Well, let them both apply the matter as well as they can, for indeed I will travail for none of them both, yet I will seem to work wonders on each hand.
Enter Dulippo.
But is this not one of Damon's servants that cometh forth? It is. Of him I shall understand where his master is. Whither goeth this jolly gallant?
I come to seek somebody that may accompany my master at dinner. He is alone and would fain have good company.
Seek no further. You could never have found one better than me.
I have no commission to bring so many.
How many? I will come alone.
How canst thou come alone? How has continually a legion of ravening wolves within thee?
Thou doest as servants commonly do, hate all that love to visit their masters.
Why?
Because they have too many teeth, as you think.
Nay, because they have too many tongues.
Tongues? I pray you, what did my tongue ever hurt you?
Oh, I speak but ever merrily with you, Pasiphilo. Come in, my master is ready to dine.
What, dineth he so early?
He that riseth early, dineth early.
I would I were his man. Master Doctor never dineth till noon, and how delicately then, God knoweth. I will be bold to go in, for I count myself bidden.
You were best so.
And exit Pasiphilo into the house. Dulippo remains.
Hard hap had when I first began this unfortunate enterprise, for I suppose the readiest medicine to my miserable effects had been to change my name, clothes, and credit with my servant, and to place myself in Damon's service, thinking that a shivering cold by glowing fire, thirst by drink, hunger by pleasant repast, and 1,000 such like passions find remedy by their contraries, so my restless desire might have found quiet by continual contemplation. But alas, I find that only love is unsatiable, for as the fly playeth with the flame, till at last she is cause of her own decay, so the lover that thinketh with kissing and colling to content his unbridled appetite is commonly seen the only cause of his own consumption. 2 years are now past since, under the colour of Damon's service, I have been a sworn servant to keep it, over whom I have received as much favour and grace as ever man found in his service. I have free liberty at all times to behold my desire, to talk with her, as my joys bound. Even so my pains increase, I fare like the covetous man, that having all the world at will, is never yet content. The more I have, the more I desire. Alas, what wretched estate have I brought myself onto, if in the end of all my far-fetches, I brought myself onto, if in the end of all my far-fetches, she be given by her father to this old doting doctor, this buzzard, this bribing villain, that so by many means seeketh to obtain her at her father's hands. I know she loveth me best of all others, but what may that prevail when perforce she shall be constrained to marry another? Oh, alas, the pleasant taste of my sugared joys doth yet remain so perfect in my remembrance that the least sop of sorrow seemeth more sour than gall in my mouth. If I had never known delight, with better contention, might I have no passed these dreadful dollars. And this old Mumpsimus, whom the pox consume, should win her, then may I say, farewell the pleasant talk, the kind embraces, yea, farewell the sight of my Polynesta. For he, like a jealous wretch, will pen her up, that I think the birds of the air shall not win the sight of her. I hoped to have cast a block in his way by the means that my servant, who is supposed to be Erostrato and with my habit and credit is well steamed, should proffer himself a suitor, at the least to countervail the doctor's proffers. But my master, knowing the wealth of the one and doubting the state of the other, is determined to be fed no longer with fair words, but accept the doctor, whom he right well knows, for his son-in-law. Well, my servant promised me yesterday to devise yet again some new conspiracy to drive Master Doctor out of conceit and to lay a snare that the fox might himself be caught in. What it is, I know not. Nor I saw him not since he went about it. I will go see if he be within, that at least if he help me, not, he may yet prolong my life for this once. Oh, but here cometh his lackey.
Here
Oh,
must...
Jack, Pack, where is Erostrato?
Here must Crapino be coming in with a basket and a stick in his hand. And we carry on into the next scene, Act 1, Scene 4, Crapino and Dulippo.
Erostrato? Marry, he is in his skin.
Oh, wholesome boy, I say, how shall I find Erostrato?
Find him? How mean you? By the week or by the year?
Oh, you crack halter. If I catch you by the ears, I shall make you answer me directly.
Indeed.
Tarry me a little.
In faith, sir, I have no leisure.
Shall we try who run fastest?
We may infer that there is some kind of chasing game occurring here.
Your legs be longer than mine. You should have given me the advantage.
Go to. Tell me, where is Erostrato?
I left him in the street, where he gave me this basket, I would have said, and bade me bear it to Dalio and return to him at the Duke's palace.
If thou see him, tell him I must needs speak with him immediately, or abide a while. I will go seek him myself, rather than be suspected by going to his house.
And they exit. If we assume that this is, as it is the end of Act 1, that there is a mini break here in the action, as it were. So, lots of things going on here. Pasiphilo, as this sort of parasite figure, he's trying to attach himself on some level to a household or various households to Sarp and go on various commissions. He's not technically a servant, though. I think he thinks of himself as being considerably higher than that. But he wants to become a broker on both sides. I like that very much. David?
More the stomach of two masters than the servant, I think.
Yes. And that's what Dulippo says so nicely. My master had asked me to bring someone here, and he said, "Well, you're too many because you're going to eat so much. There's a legion of ravening wolves within me." I like that very much. Then we get into Dulippo's lengthy oration of the agonies of which he is living under, the confusions, the complications. Thoughts? Eric?
I like that in this play you actually have an excuse for the disguises, whereas in the play that we've been doing in the afternoons, Knack to Know a Knave, it's kind of unclear as to why people are being disguised, but it's fun. It's definitely fun.
Yeah, no, we have plenty of exposition. We know why everyone's doing everything. It's lovely. Angela.
Can't help but feel that they've made a mistake, though, because if the servant, the real servant who's the unreal Erostrato, actually wins the hand of Polynesta, then how the heck are they going to get her to actually marry the not real servant? You can see that there's going to be complications coming along.
You're suggesting this play may involve some complications. I can't imagine. It's all very simple. It's about a series of supposes that you suppose should be supposed. So yeah, Rachael.
No, I guess now just because they raised the nurse raised that question earlier whether he was really the servant or the master. that, I don't know, I'm just surprised that he actually was disguised as who he said he was, and he was telling her the truth. Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna have problems changing back and getting all his stuff back later on.
Yeah, it's interesting also the way this is structured, because in the sense that it is quite confusing, but actually I don't really care. I'm just going with what's happening at each moment. I'm not actually too worried about untangling all the various permutations of how it's all going. I mean, that's quite difficult to do, because knowing what's going on, I find is quite important normally with a play. Other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Yeah, we're all just enjoying this one. I kind of nobody really wants to do the talking bit. They just want to read the play. That's fine. I can take a hint. I can. Okay, let's dive into Act 2. We have a lengthy sequence with Dulippo and Erostrato, or is it the other way round? Worry not, just go with what your character names are and see how it all comes together. Dulippo has either returned to the stage or has remained on stage. We shall see.
I think if I had as many eyes as Argus, I could not have sought a man more narrowly in every street and every by-lane. There are not many gentlemen, scholars, nor merchants in the city of Ferrara, but I have met with them, except him. Peradventure, he is come home by another way. But the query cometh by the last.
Enter Erostrato.
In good time have I spied my good master.
Oh, for the love of God, call me Dulippo, not master. Maintain the credit that thou hast hitherto kept, and let me alone.
Yet, sir, let me sometimes do my duty unto you, especially where nobody heareth.
Oh, yea, but so long the parrot useth to cry knack in sport, that at the last she calleth her master knave in earnest. Oh, so long you will use to call me master, that at the last we shall be heard. What news?
Good.
Indeed.
Yea, excellent. We have as good as won the wager.
Oh, how happy were I if that were true.
Hear ye me. Yesternight in the evening I walked out and found Pasiphilo, and with small entreating had him home to supper, where, by such means as I used, he became my great friend, and told me the whole order of our adversary's determination, yea, and what Damon doth intend to do also, and hath promised me that from time to time what he can espy, he will bring me word of it.
I cannot tell whether you know him or no. He is not to trust unto a very flattering and a lying knave.
I know him very well. He cannot deceive me. And this that he hath told me I know must needs be true.
And what was it in effect?
That Damon had purposed to give his daughter in marriage to this doctor, upon the dower that he hath proffered.
Are these your good news? Your excellent news?
Stay a while, you will understand me before you hear me.
Well, say on. So?
I answered to that, I was ready to make her the like dower.
Oh, well said.
Abide, you hear not the worst yet.
Oh, God, is there any worse behind?
Worse? Why, what assurance could you suppose that I might make without some special consent from Philogano, my father?
There, you can tell. You are a better scholar than I.
Indeed, you have lost your time, for the books that you toss nowadays treat of small science.
Leave thy jesting and proceed.
I said further that I received letters lately from my father, whereby I understood that he would be here very shortly to perform all that I had proffered. Therefore I required him to request Damon on my behalf that he would stay his promise to the doctor for a fortnight or more.
This is somewhat yet, for by this means I shall I shall be sure to linger and live in hope 1 fortnight longer. But at the fortnight's end, when Filigano cometh not, how shall I then do? Yea, and though he came, how may I anyway hope of his consent when he shall see that to follow this amorous enterprise I have set myself all study? So I set aside all study, all remembrance of my duty, and all dread of shame. Alas, alas, I may go hang myself.
Comfort yourself, man, and trust in me. There's a salve for every sore, and doubt you not, to this mischief we will find a remedy.
Your friend revived me, that hitherto since I first attempted this matter have been continually dying.
Well, hearken a while then. This morning, as I took my horse and rode into the fields to solace myself, and as I passed the ford beyond St. Antony's gate, I met at the foot of the hill a gentleman, riding with 2 or 3 men, and as methought by his habit and his looks he should be none of the wisest. He saluted me, and I him. I asked from whence he came and whither he would. He answered that he had come from Venice, then from Padua, now was going to Ferrara, and so to his country, which is Siena. As soon as I knew him to be a Sienese, suddenly, lifting up mine eyes, as it were with an admiration, I said unto him, Are you a Sienese, and come to Ferrara? Why not? Said he. Quoth I, half and more with a trembling voice, Know you the danger that should ensue if you be known in Ferrara to be a Sienese? He, more than half amazed, desired me earnestly to tell him what I meant.
I know not where to this tendeth.
I believe you, but hearken to me.
Oh, go to then.
I answered him in this sort, Gentlemen, because I have heretofore found very courteous entertainment in your country, being a student there, I accompt myself as it were bound to a Sienese, and therefore, if I knew of any mishap towards any of that country, God forbid but that I should disclose it. And I marvel that you knew not of the injury that your countrymen offered this other day to the ambassadors of Count Hercules.
What tales he telleth me? What appertain these to me?
If you will hearken a while, you shall find them no tales, but that they appertain to you more than you think for.
Fourth.
I told him further that these ambassadors of Count Hercules had divers mules, wagons, and chariots laden with divers costly jewels, gorgeous furniture, and other things, which they carried as presents passing that way to the King of Naples, the which were not only stayed in Siena by the officers which you call customers, but searched, ransacked, tossed, and turned, and in the end exacted for tribute, as if they had been the goods of a mean merchant.
Whither the devil will he? Is it possible that this great appertain anything to my court? So, is it possible that this gear appertain anything to my court? I find neither head nor foot in it.
Oh, how impatient you are! I pray you stay a while.
I'll go to yet a while then.
I proceeded that upon these causes the Duke sent his chancellor to declare the case unto the Senate there, of whom he had the most uncourteous answer that ever was heard. Whereupon he was so enraged with all of that country that for revenge he had sworn to spoil as many of them as ever should come to Ferrara, and to send them home in their doublet and hose.
And I pray thee, how couldst thou upon the sudden devise or imagine such a lie? And to what purpose?
You shall hear by and by a thing as fit for our purpose as any could have happened.
I would fain hear you conclude.
You would fain leap over the stile before you come at the hedge. I would you had heard me and seen the gestures that I had forced to make him believe this.
I believe you, for I know you can counterfeit well.
Further, I said, the Duke had charged upon great penalties that the innholders and victuallers should bring word daily of as many Sienese as come to their houses. The gentleman, being, as I guessed at the first, a man of a small sapientia, when he heard these news, would have turned his horse another way.
By likelihood he was not very wise when he would believe that of his country, which, if it had been true, every man must needs have known it.
Why not? When he had not been in his country for a month past, and I told him this had happened within these 7 days.
In like heinous of sworn small experience.
I think of as little as may be, but best of all, for our purpose, and a good adventure it was that I met with such a one. Now hearken, I pray you.
Make an end, I pray thee!
He, as I say, when he heard these words, would have turned the bridle, and I, feigning a countenance as though I were somewhat pensive and careful for him, paused a while, and after, with a great sigh, said to him, Gentlemen, for the courtesy that, as I said, I have found in your country, and because your affairs shall be the better dispatched, I will find the means to lodge you in my house. And you shall say to every man that you are a Sicilian of Catania, your name Filogano, father to me that am indeed of that country and city here called Erostrato. And I, to pleasure you, will, during your abode here, do you reverence, as though you were my father.
Not upon me. What a gross-headed fool am I! Now I perceive whereto this tale tendeth.
Well, and how like you of it?
Indifferently, but one thing I doubt.
What is that?
Marry, that when he hath been here 2 or 3 days, he shall hear of every man that there is no such thing between the Duke and the town of Siena.
Well, as for that, let me alone. I do entertain, and will entertain him so well that within these 2 or 3 days I will disclose unto him all the whole matter, and doubt not but to bring him in for performance of as much as I has promised to Damon. For what hurt can it be to him when he shall bind a strange name and not his own?
What think you he will be entreated to stand bound for a dower of 2,000 ducats by the year?
Yea, why not, if it were 10,000, as long as he is not indeed the man that is bound?
If it be so, what shall we be the nearer to our purpose?
Why, when we've done as much as we can, how can we do any more?
Where have you left him?
At the inn, because of his horses. He and his men shall lie in my house.
Why brought you him not with you?
I thought better to use your advice first.
Well, go take him home, make him all the cheer you can, spare for no cost. I will allow it.
Content, look where he cometh.
Is this he? Go meet him. By my troth, he looks even like a good fowl. He that fisheth for him might be sure to catch a cod's head. I will rest here a while to decipher him.
And we'll just pause there before we go into the next units of action mislabeled in your scripts. We are still in Act 2. Yes, so backstory, plot, complications told in story form. I want a flip chart and diagrams. I want all these things. Yeah, thoughts in the room.
I really want to do another session just on that last scene, because I think you to just pick it out and get, especially for Dulippo's lines, actually get them right, because I kept tripping over the syntax in them. But yeah, fabulous, love it.
It feels like what with most commedia type plays where you've got that sort of like it's confusion, but it's very precise. It's not like what we had today where we kind of had no idea what was going on or why. I mean, earlier today, it kind of is very sort of like surgically accurate almost.
Yes, we've got a lot of business, but there is a through line and a logic to all of it that is clearly very, very worked out. Yes, we've got these lengthy scenes that could have been scenes, but are done as confusion scenes again. Once again, it's this game of trying to bamboozle by trying to explain. And that's the funness of that, and the way the relationship between these two characters is working, because of course, we're sort of seeing their true colours and seeing how they function together. Angela.
amazed at how unbelievably clear and straightforward this language is. You know, if this had been written by, I don't know about 1560s, but Thomas Nash or somebody like that, it would just be full of all kinds of rhetorical devices and stuff. It would be really hard work, and this is just absolutely brilliant. It's like it was written yesterday. So I mean, so the translator has just translated it completely for sense. Is Ariosto such a wonderfully clear? Where's all the devices? I don't want them, but I mean, where are they?
Yeah, I genuinely don't know how accurate or inaccurate it is. I suspect it's quite accurate. I suspect that it's largely following as writ. I mean, it's a very nice example of a modern new wave new comedy, as it were, a neo-new comedy. Can you say that? I don't know if that's the right way of putting it. It's got its classical models, and it's putting all the things into it, and it's doing incredibly well. Yeah, and you're right. It does sound very modern. I mean, it's in prose for a start. We don't have that many plays in prose at this juncture. There aren't a lot, so this is doing an awful lot of work for us. But yeah, we have these sort of mid-Tudor comedies that are much more straightforward like this. That do get a bit befuddled later on when we get to the playhouse stages, and that's interesting how that happens and why that happens. Actually, you look at how well structured some of the things like this and Gamma Gurdon's Needle and even Ralph Royce de Doyster. They're very, very neat structurally put together plays. I suspect it's to do with how the plays are written later on. That this is very much a single person translating a single person, rather than a manufactured sausage factory of plays. I could be being unfair there. I don't know if that's true. I'm spitballing. Rachael, I don't know if you're waving.
No. I just like the last part of the scene where the guy, I don't know, is it if it's Paquetto or Patrucio who's coming up in the next scene, who Dulippo describes as looking so evil that he looks like a rotten fish, or something. At least that's what I think he's saying. But and also that Cleander may be out of all his money in this bidding war for Dulippo's lover.
That's interesting. Sorry, I'm looking ahead.
Yeah. I mean,
continue. Yes.
Rachel's right. He's got someone who can sign the assurance that of a good dowry, but whether what his actual dad will say when he finds out what he's purported to have signed is a whole nother question.
Yes. Eric.
Also, that was just such an elaborate but such a good setup. Just like tell me. By the time the Erostrato / Dulippo actually reveals what he's done. It's just you really want to know, and you kind of expect that it's going to be something really stupid, but it's not that stupid in the context of the play, I guess. But also just that line, I thought better to use your advice first. And it's like, so you've done all this without his advice, but suddenly you think, I thought better to take his advice.
Yes, I've already done everything, but I thought I'd ask you first.
Well, we've seen in this scene, this is Erostrato's first scene, but earlier we heard that Erostrato has taken Dulippo's place at university as well, and that he's actually doing quite well. So we have a fair estimate of Erostrato's intelligence, and he seems to be the Arlecchino figure here, the clever servant. We've got and Dulippo in this scene is playing straight man. We've got several examples of the slow servant, your Pedrillo or Zanni, but yeah, Erostrato, I'm liking him.
Yeah, but he is also the Erostrato does get things wrong, because the first thing he does is says, "Ah, my master." Shush now.
He knows no one's listening, apart from a whole playhouse full of strangers.
Yeah. So yes, we've got lots of things. We go into the next scene. And we will rattle on. I think we'll rattle on till the end of the session. I think because these all sort of run into each other. So it's labelled as Scene 2 of Act 2, and we have two servants come in, Paquetto and Patrucio.
He that travelleth in this world passeth by many perils.
You say true, sir. If the boat had been a little more laden this morning at the ferry, we had been all drowned, for I think there are none of us that could have swam.
I speak not of that.
Oh, you mean the foul way that we had since we came from this Padua? I promise you, I was afraid twice or thrice that your mule would have lain fast in the mire.
Jesus, what a blockhead thou art. I speak of the peril we are in presently since we came into the city.
A great peril, I promise you, that we were no sooner arrived, but you found a friend that brought you from the inn and lodged you in his own house.
Yea, marry God, the gentle young man that we met, for else we had been in a wise case by this time. But have done with these tales and take you heed. And you also, sir, take heed that none of you say we be Sienese. And remember that you call me Filogano of Catania.
Sure, I shall never remember these outlandish words. I could well remember Hacanea.
I say Cathanea, not Hacanea, with a vengeance.
Let another name it then when need is, for I shall never remember it.
Then hold thy peace and take heed thou name not Siene.
How say you if I feign myself dumb, as I did once in the house of Chrysobolus?
Do as thou thinkst best, but look, where cometh the gentleman whom we are so much bound unto.
Welcome, my dear father, Filogano.
Mercy, my good son, Erostrato.
That is well said. Be mindful of your tongue, for these Ferrarese be as crafty as the devil of hell.
No, be you sure we will do as you have bidden us.
For if you should name Siena, they would spoil you immediately and turn you out of the town with more shame than I would should befall you for 1,000 crowns.
I warrant you, I was giving them warning as I came to you, and doubt not, but the will take, but they will take good heed.
Yea, and trust not the servants of my household too far, for they are Ferrarese all, and never knew my father, nor came never in Sicilia. This is my house. Will it please you to go in? I will follow.
And we can infer that they go in. We have Dulippo now alone, because he hadn't actually necessarily exited the stage earlier.
This scare had no evil beginning, for if it continue so and fall to happy end, but is not this the silly doctor? There's a full stop in there. This gear hath had no evil beginning, if it continue so and fall to happy end. But is not this the silly doctor with the side bonnets, the doting fool that dare presume to become such a peerless paragon? How covetous doth blind the common sign and son of men. Damon, more desirous of the dower than mindful of his gentle and gallant daughter, hath determined to make him his son-in-law, and for his age may be his father-in-law, and hath greater respect to the abundance of goods to his own natural child. He beareth well in mind to fill his own purse, but he little remembereth that his daughter's purse shall be continually empty, unless Master Doctor fill it with double duck eggs. Alas, I jest and have no joy. I will stand here aside and laugh a little at his lopcock.
Yes, the doctor's man, Carrion, Cleander, have now made it on around on stage in some fashion.
Master, what the devil mean you to go seek guests at this time of day? The mayor's officers have dined ere this time, which are always the last in the market.
I come to seek Pasiphilo, to the end he may dine with me.
As though 6 months and the cat for the 7th be not sufficient to eat in harlotry shutterel, a pennyworth of cheese, and 60 spurlings, this is all the dainties you have dressed for you and your family.
Ah, greedy gut, art thou afeard thou shalt want?
I am afeard indeed. This is not the first time I have found it so.
Shall I make some sport with this? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Shall I make some sport with this gallant? What shall I say to him?
Thou art afeard belike that he will eat thee and the rest.
Nay, rather that he will eat your mule, both hair and hide.
Hair and hide? And why not flesh and all?
Because she hath none. If she had any flesh, I think you had eaten her yourself by this time.
She may thank you then for your good attendance.
Nay, she may thank you for your small allowance.
In faith, now let me alone.
Hold thy peace, drunken knave, and espy me Pasiphilo.
Since I can do no better, I will set such a stance between him and Pasiphilo that all this town shall make them friends.
Could you not have sent to seek him, but you must come yourself? Surely you come for some other purpose, for if you would have had Pasiphilo to dinner, I warrant you he would have tarried half an hour since.
Hold thy peace. Hold thy peace. Here is one of Damon's servants. Of him I shall understand where he is. Good fellow, art not thou one of Damon's servants?
Yes, sir. At your namandamont.
Gramercy. Tell me then, hath Pasiphilo been there this day or no?
Yes, sir. I think he be there still.
What laughest thou?
At a thing that every man may not laugh at.
What?
Talk that Pasiphilo had with my master this day.
What talk, I pray thee?
I may not tell it.
Doth it concern me?
Nay, I will say nothing.
Tell me.
I can say no more.
I would but know if it concerned me. I pray thee tell me.
If I was sure you would not tell it again.
Believe me, I will keep it close. Carry on. Give us leave a little. Go aside.
If my master should know that it coined by me, I were better die 1,000 deaths.
He shall never know it. Say on.
Yea, but what assurance shall I have?
I lay thee my faith and honesty in pawn.
A pretty pawn. The fuggers will not lend you a farthing on it.
Yea, but amongst honest men is it more worth than gold?
Yea, I pray thee, if it anything appertain to me. Oh, sorry. Yea, marry, sir, but where be they? But will you needs have me tell it unto you?
Yea, I pray thee, if it anything appertain to me.
Yes, it is of you, and I would gladly tell it to you, because I would not have such a man of worship so scorned by a villain revolt.
I pray thee tell me then.
I would tell you so that you will swear never to tell it to Pasiphilo, to my master, nor to any other body.
Surely it is some ploy devised to get some money of him.
I think I have a book here.
If he knew him as well as I, he would never go about it, for he may as soon get one of his teeth from his jaws with a pair of pincers as a penny out of his purse with such a conceit.
Here is a letter will serve the turn. I swear to thee by the contents thereof never to disclose it to any man.
I will tell you. I am sorry to see how Pasiphilo doth amuse you, persuading you that always he laboureth for you, when indeed he lieth on my master continual. as it were, with tooth and nail. For a stranger, a scholar born in Sicilia, they call him Roscus, or Arskis. He has a mad name, I can never hit upon it.
And thou reckonest it as madly. Is it not no Erostrato?
Oh, that same! I never remembered it. And the villainy speaketh all the evil of you that can be devised.
To whom?
To my master. Yea, and to Polynesta herself sometimes.
Is it possible? Ah, slave, and what saith he?
Oh, more evil than I can imagine, that you are the miserablest and most niggardly man that ever were. Was, sorry.
And saith Pasiphilo so by me?
That as often as he cometh to your house, he is like to die for hunger. You fair sir.
That the devil take him else.
And that you are the testiest man and most diverse to please in the whole world, so that he cannot please you unless he should even kill himself with continual pain.
Oh, devilish tongue.
Furthermore, that you cough continually and spit till the dog comes to bite it.
I never spit nor cough more thus. Who? And that but since I caught this myrrh, but who is free from it?
You say in truth, sir, but yet further he saith, your armholes stink, your feet worse smell than they, and your breath worse full.
If I quite him not for this gear.
And that you are bursting in the cobs.
O villain, he lieth, and if I were not in the street, thou shouldst see them.
And he saith, and you desire this young gentlewoman as much for men's pleasure as for your own.
What meaneth he by that?
Peradventure that by her beauty you would entice many young men to your house.
Young men? To what purpose?
Nay, guess you that.
Is it possible that Pasiphilo speaketh thus of me?
Yea, and much more.
And doth Damon believe him?
Yea, more than you would think, in such sort that long ere this he would have given you a flat repulse, but for Pasiphilo entreated him to continue you a suitor for his advantage.
How for his advantage?
Marry, that during your suit he might still have some reward and for his great pains.
He shall have a rope, and yet that is more than he deserveth. Ooh, it just skipped place. Oh no. Sorry, one moment.
He shall have a rope. Hunting for the rope.
I'm looking for a rope right now. Where's my rope? Here is my rope. He shall have a rope, and yet that is more than he deserveth. I had thought to have given him these hose when I had worn them a little nearer, but he shall have a...
In good faith, sir, they were but lost on him. Will you anything else with me, sir?
Nay, I have heard too much of thee already.
Then I will take my leave of you.
Farewell. But tell me, may I not know thy name?
Sir, they call me Foul Fool you.
An ill-favoured name, by my troth. Art thou this countryman?
No, sir. I was born by a castle men call Scapcatchew. Farewell, sir.
And exit Dulippo.
Farewell. Oh God, how have I been abused? What a spokesman, what a messenger had I provided.
Why, sir, will you tarry for Pasiphilo till we die for hunger?
Trouble me not, that the devil take you both.
These news, whatever they say, whatsoever they be, like him not.
Art thou so hungry yet? I pray to God thou be never satisfied.
By the mass, no more I shall, as long as I am your servant.
Go with mischance.
Yea, and a mischief to you, and to all such covetous wretches.
And they exit, continuing the long tradition of servants not being fed as much as they would like to have been fed. Something that will continue in John Lilly in about 20 years' time. And various other bits of shtick. I'm wondering what the joke is with the etc. Given him these hose had worn them a little nearer, but he shall have a... It feels like there should be something arse-related.
There, possibly, but it might be a visual gag. He might be pulling... rather than referring to the hose he has on, he might be pulling a spare pair out of his bag and then, like, wrapping them around his neck and going, "Rawr."
I was thinking just dropping his trousers.
That might be even better.
Students, what can you do? So yeah, we've got sort of more interaction, more interplay, less sense of the thrust of the plot with this sequence that we've sort of had. Thoughts in the room, Angela, then David.
I really like this extra information we're getting about Cleander, that he's got this constant cough, very, very timely for current times. So he's got this constant cough, he spits and stuff. So we really get, so if you went back to the beginning and you had this really quite revolting character who is like coughing and all the rest of it, so you're really getting to know him quite well now.
David.
I think Pasiphilo either needs to be played as very, very thin or very, very fat, or possibly, best of all, very, very thin at the beginning of the play and getting gradually fatter as the play goes on.
Never knowingly not holding a chop in his hand,
Or just one cornetto.
Yeah. No, with him it will never be just one. That's the problem.
2 flakes.
Yeah.
I do like the when Dulippo, who's disguised as a servant, disguised as another servant, when he's slandering he's slandering Cleander, relating a bunch of total lies that he's trying to pass off that Pasiphilo that says of Cleander. He says, he says that you are bursten in the cods, and cods are testicles, and Cleander's like, "Oh, villain, he lieth, and if I were not in the street, thou shouldst see them." So, we've got yet more trouser dropping.
Yeah, they call him Roscus or Arskis. I can never remember what it is. Something like that.
I'm guessing that's actually Roscius, the actor name.
Yeah.
I haven't double checked that yet, so I will do that now. There might have been an interesting question of who was saying what earlier, but not in a matter an element that mattered, so it's fine. Other thoughts? Rachael, and then Eric.
I wrote in the chat before about Cleander that I don't know if he's a more portly man or just a very thin man, too, just because of how cheap he is, and I like how Dulippo he just insults him to his face and then passes it off as if it's Pasiphilo saying all these things, and maybe Pasiphilo really is, because he's trying to play both Cleander and Erostrato.
Eric.
I was going to say that I thought it was because the way it's written, at least in the sort of cast list, is the Sienese and Paquetto and Patrucio are 3 different characters, but it's Paquetto who is pretending to be the father.
Yes, so there's a bit of a confusion there, which I was hoping to quietly sidestep because the audience at home won't have noticed. Because they can't see the character names. So the character names are thing. There are two servants, one of whom is silent, one of whom is speaking, and the way they're written in the script is the wrong way around. Not the wrong way around. One of them's just wrong. So it's a thing. One of them is the Sienese, who is the one who is pretending.
Yeah, that's Paquetto, and then.
Well, technically they're both Sienese, so it's like Sienese would be plural, so technically that's fine in terms of grammar.
Yeah, it's the way it's written in the script, so they are the wrong way around. So there's some confusion there to be added to the confusion, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. Nobody at home would have noticed until he brought it up because they didn't see it in the script. Fine, it's. I've got a massive textual editorial note to sort out for next time with all the others. Because there are some elements there which are not very specific or clear. We're really leaning into the plot with the fake father figure personage there. Which anyone who was with us when we read Taming of a Shrew, this is where it comes from. This is where it comes from, or one of the sources that it comes from. Whereas there they sort of enact the meeting of the person and the thing and the persuading and the stuff, as I recall, as opposed to being related elsewhere. Other thoughts? We've gone through this at slightly greater pace than intended because everyone was just enjoying reading it so much, and in a sense, it's not necessarily the kind of play where I'm feeling a desperate urge to do a deep dive for reasons that will become clear later in the week, because so much of it is dependent on that physicality to understand who people are and who they're in relation to other people. I think that questions you're asking about how big people are, what do they visually look like, all these signifiers that we don't have, which are really important, I think, to how this play functions. That commedia aspect as well, all these various elements of these comedic tropes going back to the new comedy, going back to Plautus, Terence, etc., but also feeding from other later commedia things, and all those other influences, and then translated into English. It's a heady mix of influences.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm so miffed I'm not here the rest of the week. And can't be. Wow. No, fab, absolutely. I haven't laughed so hard, and I love the fact that it's got so many twists, turns, and character reveals, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and that prologue will stay with me for a long time.
It's a really nicely structured prologue, isn't it?
Never expected to have to say the word supposes so many times in 2 minutes.
Yeah, and it looks like a speech that would be difficult to learn, but it's not actually, because it is so precise. I suspect it's actually incredibly easy. And once you get it in there, might be a bit of a struggle to that first push, but once it's in there, you'll probably know it for the rest of your life. Which is not inherently a bad thing. We're effectively into final thoughts. David, do you have any final thoughts about the play so far?
I'm loving it too. It's an absolute joy. I should be back tomorrow as reserve.
Oh, excellent. The more the merrier. Eric, any final thoughts?
So suppose that so basically Erostrato is Dulippo, and Dulippo is Erostrato, and then Paquetto is supposed to be Erostrato's dad, then who is called Filogano, and we don't need a flip chart, we need just like labels or something, which is going to be hilarious.
Well, it's interesting. I was talking about the visual signifiers, but actually for the audience at home, they're not having the same head confusion that we are about who Dulippo and Erostrato is, because we know who they're getting it the other way round. You know, that we're constantly seeing their assumed name as their name in the script, whereas it probably should be inverted the other way round with a note at the beginning just to make it clear who they are. It is interesting that's that choice. It occasionally had there are other options to how you lay it out, and I'm playing around with what those options should be. Rachael, any final thoughts?
No, just that I enjoy this one. It's just very I don't know. It would be interesting to see this one at pace, just because I feel like that's just the rate of comedy, but it's funny as it is already.
Angela, how was it for you? And any final thoughts?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'd go to any theatre to watch this. It's so brilliant. I can't believe that it's 1566 in English, and earlier, I guess, in Italian. I was just amazing. So no, fantastic, hilarious.
Okay, Liza, can you top that, or are you going to go lower? I don't know.
Well, you know what they say when they go low. Anyway, what I like about this play is that is how it manages to set up a rather complex set of impersonations in the simplest and most economic terms possible. So it's not just a fun bit of prose. It's actually really, really well structured, and it's hard to determine what you'd cut. You'd have to cut some, but it's hard to determine what.
We might be able to address that interesting question in additional content coming in a month or so's time. Any additional final thoughts going around? Anyone got anything more to add there? We have 2 more sessions on this play. We're a third of the way through. Well, I think my takeaway from this is actually, and this is going to sound like it's an insult, but it's not. It doesn't actually have that many leap out at you, take away quotable lines, as many as you'd think there should be, considering how much fun it's been. And what I really like about this is it's managing to be witty and funny, but it's hiding it all within context. So some of the funniest lines are actually very simple lines of dialogue. Are you sure about that? Which make it read very modern. I think that's the thing, is that we don't have the kind of wordplay and verbosity that we might associate with other plays that may alienate them slightly. It makes the language is much simpler, and I think that's one of the reasons we're finding this so accessible, and that's why I'm really liking it. So it's been really, really interesting that as just a way that the text functions. That isn't to say there aren't some very nice and quotable lines, but there are not as many as you think there were so far. Who knows? There might be some zingers coming up. Eric, did you want to throw something in?
I just had more of a question, I guess, because I'm just wondering whether there was a sort of in-joke in Italy about the sort of Sicily versus Ferrara kind of dynamic, because I feel like we might be missing something there, but obviously it probably got lost in the translation, and then translation over time as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a city-states politics, doesn't it? It sounds like there's a thing there. I mean, we get that there's a thing, and I think that's all that matters. I don't know if someone wants to do a deep dive into the politics of the writer of the original piece at the time to find something, that might be interesting. I'm all for that, but I'm not doing it. We'll see where it goes. Unless there are any additional final thoughts, I'm going to close this session. Oh, Angela.
I was just going to say that Ariosto, he ends up dying in Ferrara, but he's from Emilia, so I don't know what it is about all these other places and and so on, but Ferrara is his last resting place in 1533, so just 30 years before this translation.
We have touched on other translations as well, actually. The Bugbears is one that we enjoyed very much, damaged though it was. In fact, we're looking to fill in the gaps. And yeah, there are plenty other texts like that we might try and dive into over time. But anyway, we finished a little early, which is lovely. I might get to watch some telly. On that note, thanks to all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading tonight. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Farewell, cat.